Welcome back to the Man of Mastery podcast, where we're meeting and learning from men and women, thought leaders in personal optimization and elite level life performance. Welcome to Man of Mastery, episode 14, Preparing for Life's Crucibles. It's just me today, a solo cast where I'd like to debrief a recent training event I went to, talk about the lessons I took from it, actually leading up to and then during it, as well as actionable tools and techniques that I learned and applied, again, before and then during the event. It's an event called SEALFit 20X. SEALFit 20X is put on by Mark Devine and his Unbeatable Mind team. They deliver what may be the only integrated development system out there. Through books and online, they teach functional fitness, yoga, breath work, things that develop what he calls his 5 mountains: mind, body, emotion, intuition, and spirit. There's really nothing like it, and to take it to the next level, their live events are where theory is put into real practice. I'm attending another coming up in September in Carlsbad, California, that I'll tell you about here at the end of the show. But today, I'd like to unpack SEALFit 20X. So this happened a couple Saturdays ago for me, and the lessons that I was dealing with before, leading up to, and through this are around addressing fear and anxiety, attention control, putting into practice the value of getting uncomfortable, and really the importance of truly knowing your why. And in terms of tools and techniques that I learned and put to work and that I'd like to share here today, really hits on those lessons. So one is some ways to address fear or anxiety that come with anticipation. Another is in the realm of visualization. I mentioned breath work, so I'll touch on breath work. There's something that Mark and his team call the witness. So we'll also talk about that. Those are the 4 main tools. So before we dive in, I just want to talk a bit about shifting gears here on the show slightly. So July, the pace changed, the intensity changed a little bit with a few of the guests. August and September, the intensity is going to crank back up again. I've got a few high-profile guests coming in, and as I mentioned early on, we want to learn from both men and women that are at the top of their game. So my next couple episodes have some women joining us that have some incredible, inspiring, and really powerful stories going on. In addition to facilitating a conversation each week and sharing a guest that you may or may not be familiar with, I'd like to also start to emphasize and share what I'm personally learning and applying out of each one of these conversations. So you'll get their take on it, and I'll start to share a little bit of my take and my application as well. One of the things that might help me in doing that and serving that purpose a little bit better, I'm embarking myself on a coaching certification now as well, which may put a little more structure to what we're doing here, and that's something that I'll share in the coming future as well. So one last thing on terms of format. So I have a very common call to action that I often ring, right? Which is rate and subscribe. You hear it on every podcast. Rate and subscribe the podcast. Go to iTunes. Well, I mean, that's a real thing. It's good for me, and it's good for the show, and it's good to build an audience and get the word out, expand the network and the tribe. But really, the point I'm after here is it shouldn't necessarily be about me. It's really about you. So if you're interested in listening, then this should be about you. So I'm putting in the work on my end, and it's a good bit of work every week. But if you find this interesting and if you find it valuable, then really the call to action is to act. So in particular, I'll start again with this episode sharing some sites, links to videos, links to books. I'll link to that September event that I mentioned. And I know oftentimes people are listening on a plane, in a car, they're on a treadmill, and you can't just stop and type in a website and have a look and hit URLs. But I would really encourage and challenge you and call on you guys to do your part. Find a way to make it happen. Whether you pause now and go find these links and hit them, if you do it again at the end, or you have to set yourself a reminder and you do it later in the day, if you're going to put the time in to listen, then to put the time in to take a look at what's out there and think about taking action on a particular topic. So today's you'll be able to find at manofmastery.com/014. manofmastery.com/014. I'll mention it again at the end, but that's where your part comes in. So listen, and I do thank you for listening, and by all means, I'm so grateful for that. But do your part, take some action, and see if there's something out there that fits for you. One last thing about that is I'll say on the website, there is an affiliate disclosure that's a blanket. I'm really not out here pushing, shilling, or getting compensated by almost any of this stuff. It's really just sharing what works for me. And I suspect, particularly if you're listening, that you've got some like-minded features, and it may work for you as well. Now, if you buy one of these books that I link to on Amazon, I might make 50 cents on it. But for the most part, this stuff, and especially some of the big stuff that I really want to share here through this episode today, I am steering you that direction because it's working for me, and I think you might really like it. All right, so last thing on today, I'm going to apologize for my voice. I have been hitting it pretty hard the last few weeks between travel and work and competitions and events. So to say a little bit about that, 2 weeks ago, we went and competed at the Spartan race in Fort Carson, Colorado, outside Colorado Springs. It wasn't the Breckenridge 11,000 feet of altitude from last year, but it was surprisingly steep, and it was super hot, probably 95 degrees, arid. You're running through cactus. The kids' race was ridiculously long, and my son, so proud of him. He put in a great performance on Saturday and took a podium, but he came back even stronger on Sunday, shook off the fatigue from Saturday, and knocked a ridiculous, I think, 20 minutes off his time and bumped himself up to second place. So I'm super proud of him. The grit and the resilience were inspiring to me when I went out and ran my race. And I also want to say thanks and congratulations to my buddy Dave and his son Bodie. They powered through their first ever Spartan races in some crazy tough conditions out there. So Dave and Bodie literally got knocked down and got back up again and again and just kept coming back for more, and they finished it out. So congratulations to them. I think maybe in hindsight at least, they probably enjoyed it. I hope they took away some passion for getting back out there and doing it again soon. Okay, enough of the long preamble. I'd like to share a few quotes that are just great context for today's topic. And you've probably heard a few of these before. The first one, I think, comes from Jerry Rice. It is, do today what others won't, do tomorrow what others can't. And from a couple gentlemen with military backgrounds, maybe fitting for the SEALFit context, you may have heard this one from Dick Marcinko. The more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in combat. Or another version of that from Norman Schwarzkopf, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. So, guys, this is all about preparation. It's about training and jumping right in. It is about designing to do hard things. It's about undertaking crucible events. And it's about learning tools and techniques to apply in daily life challenges, or when you find yourself really in that wilderness of life and life's challenges. Okay, what do we mean by crucibles or crucible training? This can be different for everybody, depending on your style, your preference, your capability. It could be a super long distance hike or walk or ruck. It could be a meditation retreat. It could be a silence practice. The key is around intensity and duration. It doesn't have to be completely about physical intensity. And as Chief CJ Kirk said on the show a few weeks ago, if you do think it's about the physical, then you're missing the point entirely. Really, the physical aspect becomes a conduit to get you to a place to learn and to grow. So with SEALFit Kokoro and 20X, Kokoro is a Japanese word for heart or heart-mind. And Mark Devine and the Unbeatable Mind team have used it in one of their events. So they've labeled an event called SEALFit Kokoro that they promote as developing the skills to conquer the physical and mental demands of life. Now, they also call their Kokoro camp the hardest civilian training in the world and the ultimate physical and mental challenge. Now, these guys are going through 50-plus hours of intense boot camp style workouts without sleep. So that's not what I did. I did an event called 20X, but we were there in part alongside of a group doing Kokoro. Kokoro group 54 finished with an amazing something like 24 out of 28 people who started. Now, they normally get something like a 60 or 70% attrition. By the time we met up with them, they were already 30 hours into it, sleepless hours into it, intense hours into it. And these guys and gals were super inspiring to our group. I mean, they're next level. There was an NFL football player, an Italian Special Forces pilot, some CrossFit Games competitors, athletes. I mean, super, super group. So Kokoro 54, congratulations, Huya again to you guys. 20X, so my group, we were 22 people. This is a 12-hour version, the kinder, gentler version of Kokoro, again, through SEALFit. And it's designed, in the words of Mark and team, to uncover your hidden potential and learn elite-level teamwork and leadership. Learn methods for personal control and transformation, and to learn that you're capable of 20 times more than you think you are. So what is this thing? Let me set the scene for it a little bit. This is an all-night, overnight event at for me, a local mountain, lake, wilderness camping location. And it is an event of unknown activity, unknown duration, not a specific location, intensity. All these things were unknown. And it's run by coaches who are current and former U.S. Navy SEALs. I mean, these guys are the real deal. And they are masters at spotting weaknesses and drilling in. They're even masters at, they find your strengths and they turn them into weaknesses. So I've seen them say, hey, look, if that guy can do 100 push-ups, he's going to do 101. Well, guess what? The guy that can do 500, he's going to do 501. And then we're on a level playing field and I've got a ball of clay to work from. That's what these guys do. And in doing that, they create an environment of disorientation, of chaos, of stress, and discomfort. I mean, you can go search it up online, SEALFit 20X. You'll find numerous YouTube videos out there. It's pretty intriguing. So I won't cover all the detail. I would definitely say go take a look. But to give you a mental picture, campsite, dark, fire burning, spotlights. You right away, your heart rate is pushed through the roof through physical activity. You're getting hosed down with water. You're rolling around in the mud. Burpees, push-ups, flutter kicks, sit-ups, ice baths. Guys running around with bullhorns. They're in your ear. They're in your face. And through all of this, what's super important is attention to detail, attention to rules. For example, no hands on your hips, no hands in your pockets, no hands on your thighs, gasping for life and breath, shirt tucked in at all times. Don't you dare miss a belt loop. All that, guess what it earns you? Break the rules, you lack attention to detail, burpees. And not just burpees for you, but burpees for your team, burpees for the whole group. Now, one thing that's a bit different about the 20X, again, I called it the somewhat kinder, gentler version. There's no performance drop. So whereas you've got to meet certain physical test hurdles in a SEALFit 20XL, the 24-hour version, or Kokoro, the 50-plus hour version, in the 20 X version, the 12-hour version, everybody potentially can make it through. And it's not just about beating you down. It is about giving you the tools to make it, and to make it as a team, and to help your teammates in addition to the coaches getting you through it. They also, you'll see the videos online that just tend to show you the intensity, but something that's really cool about it is that they will ratchet up the intensity ferociously, and they'll keep it up. But then eventually they'll slow it down, and then they'll use a coaching moment. It's pretty cool. And it's all team-based. So you'll see things that are incredible evolutions of personalities and performance happening in just 12 hours. So we had one guy on the first, call it 2 to 3 mile run, that pulled up on the side of the road, and he was going to quit. He couldn't make the first 30 minutes. So a couple times in that first 30 minutes, the team had to stop. I don't mean had to. We willingly stopped, grabbed him, pushed him along, dragged him along, and got him through it. And the run just wasn't his thing. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and they come out in an event like this. So more power to this gentleman. He got through that first 20, 30 minutes, and he was there to see the sun come up on Sunday morning. There was another guy in my squad in particular, young man, wants to pursue a career in the Navy SEALs himself. Great shape, and look, he came in very confident in his own individual physical abilities, rightly so. But suddenly he's part of a team, and he's dealing with different levels of fitness. He's dealing with old guys, and he went from an individual contributor at 8 p.m. to by 8 a.m., he's pulling me through the run. He is encouraging other teams to help them finish. He's leading us in burpees at the end of the session. This young man went from his eyes on himself to his eyes on his team and team success in just a couple overnight lessons. So it's a super, it really is a pressure cooker, but it is a super interesting and effective. And again, I would say for anybody at any kind of level of fitness, it's well within reach, and it's something definitely worth thinking about doing. So that's the context. That sets the scene. I hope you get kind of what it might look like. But let's talk about the lessons, and let's talk about the tools. So I mentioned fear or anxiety. I tend to think of that as it's not in the moment. It's rarely in the moment. It's often in anticipation. And it's anticipation of the unknown. Fear is really that space between the known and the unknown. So if you've ever been in that place, for me, it was 2 weeks ahead of looking at this thing and this event that I was about to go do. But maybe you've had something similar. Maybe you've been sitting on an airplane and have like an anxiety attack. Maybe you've had something else similar in life that creates fear for you or is intimidating or makes you really anxious. And the weird thing is, the more you focus on it, the worse it gets, right? We just tend to have an imagination about all kinds of the worst case scenarios. So for me, this was happening for 2 weeks, 2 sleepless nights, 2 weeks of sleepless nights leading up to SEALFit 20X. I went from everything from, it wasn't so much fear of failure, because this is set up to cause you to fail. And again, emphasize relative strengths and weaknesses as a team. But it was more of a fear of that I might quit. I mean, failure is only an end state if you quit. So, fear that I might quit. And actually, what the weird thing is these guys expect fear out of you when they create this kind of environment. But one of the reasons they do that is it's part of their process. So although I knew that trust the process was the mantra, look, I couldn't help it. I was afraid. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to get my breath under control when they cranked up that intensity. I'm a guy that likes to warm up and ease into physical activity. Would I fail my team? Would I fail the physical standards tests, like pull-ups? Terrible at pull-ups. Historically, I'm terrible at pull-ups. So guess what I've been doing for the last 2 months? pull-ups, attack the weakness. I read different 20X stories where guys are crawling through small drainage pipes in the middle of the night. What would happen there? Am I going to get freaked out when I'm in the middle of a drainage tube with people ahead of me and behind me in a tiny dark space? I don't know. Never done it before. Or dunking your head in the ice bath and staying under for 10, 20 seconds in freezing cold water. Never done that before either. What's that going to be like? Or, gosh, I thought about all kinds of things. I got a bad back. What's going to happen with that? Hydration. They don't allow you to bring external hydration or fueling. It's all up to them. What's that going to be like? So that was tough. And I tried to figure out a way to deal with it. So fear or anxiety, here's the first tool. Here's what I did. Is write it down. Give it a voice. Put it on paper. Let those fears, which are probably pretty irrational, let those fears see the light of day. So I took a piece of paper and I wrote down everything that had been bothering me, everything that woke me up at night, everything that was making me sweat, everything that was making me wonder whether I should even do this thing, if I should find some reason to back out of it. And I did. When I came up with, I can't tell you how many reasons in those 2 weeks leading up to 20X on reasons that I should back out and reschedule and not do it. And in every case, I realized it wasn't real. It was fear, and it was fear trying to convince me to find a way to rationalize myself out of it. So when I wrote those fears down, I came up with 6 or 8 of them, probably the same ones that I just rattled off. I drew a line down the middle of the page, and at the top, I wrote strengths, and I underlined it, and I started down the page writing down strengths. And this stuff I do and I've done well and I've done effectively. I spent all of 2018 doing burpees for the Burpees for Vets Courage Foundation. I pretty good at hiking and rucking. Got a lot of experience on mountains and steep mountains. I just had been to Mount Whitney and then running and racing in Colorado. So I've done a bunch of stuff at altitude recently. I came up with almost 30 strengths that just dwarfed the stuff in the other column. In fact, when I looked at those fears that I gave the light of day, they just didn't even hold weight. So there's something to this thing. It's kind of what you focus on and what weight you give it. So when I really shone a spotlight on those things, they just crumbled away. So if you ever need it, give that a try. So second thing around attention control and visualization, and again, this is about sort of making it tangible and making it real, and where you focus yourself. If you're focused on the good or on the bad. I think one of the things that drove me crazy in those couple of weeks was I'm a guy that wants to be informed and well-researched and understand. So, in fact, I don't even know if it was fear of the unknown. Maybe it was fear of what I thought was known. I'm watching these YouTube videos of 20X, and I'm seeing real stuff and how hard it was. So what did I do? Well, a couple things. One, focus. I stopped watching those videos about how hard it was, and I started trying to find stuff written about how great it was and the results and the takeaways and the positive stuff. I started working on my breathing exercises, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. And then I did something else in terms of making it real, which I'm going to call the second tool here. And this is something I got from Greg Amundsen. So Greg was he was an early involver. It was involved early on in the CrossFit movement. And Greg does a lot of things now, author, speaker. He is, I think he's on a path to being a minister. And I just found out back in November, December, when I got a chance to hear him speak, that he's also studied Krav Maga for I think on and off the last 20 years, always with a goal of getting his black belt, and he had never gotten it done. So he finally decided to close that out last year, I think 2018. My understanding from him is that is a super intense full day for 4 days, talking 8 hours of intensity across 4 days. And this is a guy, I just saw on Instagram the other day, Greg, he knocked out 150 burpees on the beach in like 9 minutes to start his day. Right. So if you ever try to do 100 burpees in a row to see how fast you can do it, if you can get under 10 minutes, that's pretty darn good. Greg's knocking out 150 in like 9 minutes. I mean, this guy's a machine. And he said that he barely got through day 1 of Krav Maga black belt testing. And he was back in his hotel room wondering, like, not even like, can I make it through 3 more days, or can I make it through 1 more day? He was wondering if he could even make it back to the start of day 2. And he did something. And it's in this make it real visualization realm. And this is what I took away from him. He got out a piece of paper. And his goal was his black belt certificate. So he drew it. He drew in detail his Krav Maga black belt certificate that he was going to earn after 4 successful days, 3 more of what he had just been through. Put all kinds of detail in it, made it his own, put his name on it, and he looked at that thing before he went to bed, and he looked at it before he went to the gym. He looked at it when he woke up. He looked at it during break and at lunch. And that thing became his reality. He could see it, he could touch it, hold it in his hand. That became not only his visualization, but his reality. So I did the same thing, and I'll post a picture of it. I drew out. I knew one of the things we were going to get at the end of a successful 20X is a patch, a Velcro patch to go in your backpack. I drew my own. I drew up a 20X success patch, put my own name on it, and it doesn't really look that way, the real one, but put my name on it, even put Hooyah on there. And that was something I held in my hand every day for those couple weeks after I drew that thing up. And I used that to deal with my visualization exercises. And as I thought about it, when I would take a few minutes each day to do some breathing and clear my mind and picture that patch and hold it in my hand, what I visualized was what it was going to look like and feel like on Sunday morning to finish successfully. I visualized, I felt in my mind, how the warmth of the sun would feel coming up in the early morning sky when the end was close. I felt the energy from within me that was overcoming any physical exhaustion. I could feel the congratulatory embrace of my buddy Craig, who did it with me, and my other teammates. I could see and feel the joy and the emotion of emerging from that wilderness to my family, who was going to be waiting there for me on Sunday morning with hopefully pride and relief and joy. So people talk about visualization. I'll just add to that with this lesson, this tool, which I would say is make it real. Put it on paper, draw it out. That's a physical tool to go along with your mental tools. Okay, so now let's talk about stuff that was going on during the event and the importance of getting uncomfortable. For these guys, it's just their process, physical discomfort. And they all went through it. We're talking about Navy SEALs. These guys, their motto is no easy day, or the only easy day was yesterday. Physical discomfort, is just something in their toolkit. Exhaustion. For us, it was nighttime. There's no sense of time at night. There's no sense of place or distance. We're up on a mountain. We're rucking with weighted packs at I don't know, 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. You could see a beautiful sky full of stars and a bright moon, which sometimes you don't get with ambient city light. It was fantastic. But in terms of really knowing where we were, it's really disorienting that all you have is a guy a few feet in front of you with a green chem light dimly hanging off his belt loop, partially covered by his backpack, and it's just barely enough light, maybe not even enough, to see some of the ruts in the trail, some of the rocks you might trip over, the loose scree, or the edge of the trail on the side of the hill. It's very disorienting. It's just uncomfortable. And no matter what or who you are or where your strengths and weaknesses are, at some point in a process like this, negative thinking creeps in, self-doubt. For me, it was, I'm okay right now, but how long will this last? Or I'm good now, what if I can't make it later? Or, so we got all this weight in our packs, including food that they gave us hours ago. When do we get a break to eat? I mean, they're natural things, and that's where the next couple tools come in. So tool number 3, knowing your why. And then we'll talk about tool number 4, what Mark and the Unbeatable Mind guys call the witness. So knowing your why, and this is super important before you even start, or maybe you're going to figure it out while you're there. Superficially, mine was to walk away with some new tools and new perspectives that I could take into upcoming events. But there's got to be a deeper why that you can really rely on in those toughest moments. And at some point, I think we'd already been beat down in the grinder for a while, and the Kokoro 54 guys are next to us. They're like zombies at this point. They've been into it for 30 hours, and they're still knocking out push-ups and burpees and flutter kicks and squats and all this good stuff in the mud and getting hosed down and in the cold. And we're just getting started. So Mark stopped and got our group and started to point. Hey, why are you here? So one guy says, well, I want to be a Navy SEAL someday. Mark says, okay. He looks a little, I don't know, maybe dubious. Maybe I'm reading into that. Why are you here? The guy says, I want to find out how tough I am. I don't know. I think he kind of got the same look from Mark. Went around. There's some good ones. I'll tell you mine. I thought it was a pretty good one. So he gets to me. He says, why are you here? And I said, look, I've got an 11-year-old son, and he's kind of my hero. I'm really here to learn some things that help me grow and help me learn towards being the best father I can. And I'm wearing this paracord bracelet right now that my son made for me. So that's what's here to physically remind me tonight that he's my why. And I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. I'm biased, but I got a big screaming hoo-yah from Mark and the K54 guys. So I think it was a pretty powerful one. It was a powerful one for me. And that applies to those kind of things, but it applies to really, getting up and serving a purpose and moving the needle in your life every day is making sure you come back to knowing your why and what really is going to drive you and why you're doing what you're doing. So the fourth tool I mentioned that Mark and his team called the witness, what this is again, back to those negative thoughts and when doubts creep in, having the ability to be somewhat impartial and step back and observe and recognize those and then deal with them. So to the untrained view on this, thoughts are all reality and they can just kind of run away. They could spiral and become reality. So instead, this is a process of recognizing it, what he calls witnessing it, and being ready to interdict. And so what that means is realizing, oh, you know what? I'm starting to have some self-doubts here. I'm starting to think beyond the moment. I'm thinking about how I'm going to be doing 4 8 hours from now. And I need to think differently. I need to bring myself back to doing the best I can at the moment I'm in. And I need to change that negative thought to something positive. Now, look, I'll admit that for me, this, especially reading it in some of Mark's books and his own positive mantra in creating a new pattern or a new thought, his positive mantra seemed a little cheesy to me. But we heard it and we repeated it and we heard it over and over again out there in kind of the trenches of 20X. And I feel a little differently about it now. It was the real deal, and there were times when it really did keep us going, and it definitely changed that mindset. And I've used his exact one several times since then on some runs and workouts. So he's got a couple of them, and they kind of go together. So we're rucking along with 40, 50 pound, 30, whatever they were, pound packs on for however long we were doing it. And he'd jump in once in a while and make sure we were on positive footing. So he'd go, easy day. And we'd repeat it, easy day. I've got this. Yeah, I've got this. Easy day. Easy day. I've got this. I've got this. Looking good. Looking good. Feeling good. Ought to be in Hollywood. So that's where it gets a little funny, but you know what? The chuckle you give yourself when you're doing it at 2 a.m. and the mood that it sort of lightens, and having this guy lead us through it. Hey, look, maybe cheesy is the wrong word. Maybe it's not the right respect I should have for a guy that used it through excelling in a lot of hard training and service that he did, and worked for him. And you know what? It worked for us in that 12-hour event, and it's something that's worked since. So I think the witness and the interdiction to a repeated, and again, you just keep repeating that for as long as it takes, repeating a positive mantra, make up your own if you want. It's the real deal. Okay, last tool, which man, I don't even know if it's a tool. Maybe it's a system. It is a whole thing, and it is the foundation. If you read any of what Mark and the Unbeatable Mind guys do, or you go to any of their events, or this, you'll see this in all other kinds of packaging around similar performance material, is breathing. Tool number 5, breathing, which we all do all the time automatically. And that's the thing, until I learned, or until you learn more about it, we've got this autonomic nervous system, and it's an amazing autopilot at regulating organs, including our heartbeat and our breathing, our lungs. But as you start to learn about it, there are 2 main divisions. There's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic stimulates fight or flight or freeze. The parasympathetic is the other end of the spectrum. It's calming. It's the rest and digest. It's the feed and breathe. So they work in complement. They're both survival mechanisms. One's more active, one's more calming. And even though it's an autopilot, there's a manual override. So the manual override that we learned in 20X, that Mark teaches in everything he does, and Mark's team. So mouth breathing activates the sympathetic nervous system. It tells your body something's up. I gotta fight, or I gotta flee. I need a burst of energy. It pumps that adrenaline up. It pumps that heart rate up. And if you're in a situation of worry or fear or anxiety, or somewhere that you're just trying to calm the nerves, and you give in to that rapid mouth breathing, then you're just aggravating the problem. And I don't know if I believed it when I first tried it and heard it, but it works. It's a real deal. So the other side of this is nasal breathing. I mean, what's going on, right? All the air goes to the same place, my lungs. No. So nasal breathing activates the parasympathetic nerve system, the calming nerve system, the slowing of the breath, the slowing of the heart rate, and the slowing of all those, adrenaline, whatever all those things are pumping through your veins when you feel that burst to fight or flight. So consciously breathing, or learning how to breathe correctly, or correctly for different situations, because they've got their different applications. Sometimes it's to calm. Sometimes it's for energy. Sometimes it's for exertion. Sometimes it's to generate warmth. So it's a whole science. And if you do find some interest in the Unbeatable Mind organization and some of what they teach, a lot of this comes or is taught through Kokora Yoga by Catherine Devine, who has been studying breath for 20 plus years. So you got some really deep expertise there with her on more of the Unbeatable Mind SEALFit side. Mark and his team teach a number of things. One of the big ones for them is box breathing, which is a measured equal inhale, hold, exhale, hold. In fact, CJ Kirk, who was here a few weeks ago, talked about using that daily. He uses it as a transition, calming himself between maybe the guy he is at work and sort of resetting before he walks in the house at night from the car. And Mark Devine, his guys, they like to use it as a transition tool as well, pretty much before each new thing, before a meeting, before kicking off a keynote speech. So I'll give you guys some links to Kokora Yoga with Catherine, a little video where Mark can lead you through a box breathing if you want to try one for a couple minutes, and another video where Mark just talks about its application and how that works. But these guys aren't the only ones out there. There's probably a lot of experts with different use and different methods. Another one that's well known And you can check my website for a link to his website is Wim Hof. Wim Hof is known for his breathing methods that give him some supernatural cold tolerance. And I don't know much about his, but I believe it's based on a form of Tibetan meditation, without the spiritual component of it. And there's another I just came across recently that's interesting as a concept and maybe as a tool set. They're called Do As One, doasone.org. It's actually it's a nonprofit. It is it's on a mission to try to educate and train people worldwide. They want to have a billion people breathing together and more effectively. It's pretty interesting stuff. And it's definitely effective and it's definitely powerful. So those are the 5 tools, right? So we talked about tool number 1, write it down, bring it to the light of day, give it a voice, and see what it really looks like. We talked about number 2, making something real in your visualization approach. 3, we talked about doing things with a really good understanding of your why. 4, we talked about witnessing thoughts and interdicting and redirecting to positive thoughts and a mantra. And then 5, we talked about breath. And that's just such a simple intro to the concept of breathing. You can go as deep as you like on that. Now, I'm talking about 20X, and I'm talking about Mark Divine and SEALFit and Unbeatable Mind. This is one package. This is one style. And like I said, I'm not sure if anybody else is doing the 5 mountain integrated training like or as well as these guys are. But a lot of the concepts, maybe pieces of it, are definitely available in other places, different packaging. You got to find what style works for you. But this one works for me. It's highly, highly effective. Try it. If you don't like it, see what you liked, what you didn't, and take what you liked and use that to find something that might be a better fit for you. Or if you like this one and the style and it's something as a tool set that works for you and you might want to do more, maybe even hit the live event. Again, what I'm doing in September is a 2 to 3 day experience with these guys where it'll have some of those peaks and valleys of, let's call it classroom teaching or theory. And then we got to put it to action. Let's go for a long hike. Let's do high plank for a while. Let's do burpees on the beach. It'll be some of that stuff. And it's a really cool way to see the tools in action, do it with a team, and be coached through it by usually not only he'll have some of his Navy SEAL cohort there that are SEALFit coaches, but typically Mark and Catherine and some other really deep experts as well. So give it a look, give it a thought. I will put links to all these things and anything else I can think of in the realm of this information on the show notes for this one. And you'll get some of this in the email that comes out as well. So manofmastery.com 014. Again, look guys, that's your call to action. If you listened these 43 minutes, and I know this ran longer than I hoped, and I hope you hung in there, but if you found some good stuff in there, if the tools seem interesting, if you want to know more about this stuff, then it's your time to act. Go hit the website, hit some of these links, start reading, chase it down the rabbit hole and see where you land. And I'd love to hear what you think, how it's working for you, if you've got other tools that you like, or if you have questions. So reach out on the website, on email, or on Instagram, and let me know how this stuff's going for you. All right. Hey, thanks again, guys. I'm going to do a quick wrap up here for this week. We'll see you again next week with one of the powerful stories that I alluded to early. It's going to be a really good one. We'll see you then.